Stephen Bailey made his first court appearance this afternoon after being charged in the deaths of Christina Folkerts and Gabe Harvey and injuring 9 other people outside Park Tavern Sunday night. At the tavern tonight, the memorial grows and they slowly reopen. Today, they had counselors on hand for an all-staff meeting as the staff there are grieving the loss of their coworker Christina. And then they had a gathering for the Methodist Hospital community where Gabe worked.
He was in the right business, living to serve people and take care of them and be there for them. And Christina, in her own way, as a server, the same thing, just as sweet as can be.
So at the time of the crash that killed those 2 people, charging documents say Mr. Bailey had a blood alcohol level more than 4 times the legal limit. And records show he has a history with drunk driving. We've been reporting on that for a couple of days. He had 5 DWI convictions dating back to 1985. But despite his license being revoked twice over the years, his license was valid on Sunday night. And in the wake of all of this, many of you have asked, how is this possible? Well, Kent looked into it today.
Yeah, Jana, and the quick answer to that comes down to the timing of these DWIs. Bailey's last conviction happened back in 2014. And in the decades since, he completed everything that the state and the courts, the judges, required of him. Of course, that still wasn't enough to prevent this tragedy, and it's natural, even for experts in this area, to now question where our state and our society at large goes from here.
The opening obvious question is, why was he driving with that record?
While it's hard to comprehend how a man with 5 DWIs on his record could be legally allowed to drive at all, to understand how he got here, attorney Mike Bryant says you have to try to balance hindsight with hope.
It's based upon a system that's set up with the hope that people can rehabilitate themselves.
Many times in cases like this, when you get to 5 DUIs or more, people ask, well, at what point do we draw a line as a society in terms of rehabilitation or not?
His license was revoked, and there was a long period from the last time that he had a DUI until the present. Doesn't make it easier, doesn't make it less of a horrible event, but he went through the steps that he needed to go through in order to get that license restored.
That included blowing into an ignition interlock device before he could drive, something the state says Bailey did for 6 years as required by law until 2020. After that, it's unclear what happened, but experts say the timing is familiar.
At the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, we saw a sharp increase in injuries and deaths related to impaired driving. It was a 33% increase.
In response, Mothers Against Drunk Driving advocated for a big shift in technology mandated by the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which stated advanced drunk and impaired driving prevention technology must be standard equipment in all new passenger motor vehicles. And in December, the Department of Transportation began detailing what that might look like.
Passive technology within the vehicle that will be monitoring things like eye movement. With Hyundai, it's actually taking a little bit of a sample of the air quality and then detecting alcohol that way. Not something that needs to be done by the driver every time they get into the vehicle.
While that technology has already raised privacy and driver autonomy concerns, MAD points to state data from before the pandemic that found 1 in 7 Minnesotans had a DWI on their record, and of those, 42% had more than one.
To me, that 40% just seems shocking, but also I think that we can see from this story with Park Tavern that this is what happens.
Now, getting back to the reason we are talking about all of this, MAD's local chapter says its most immediate concern right now is connecting all of those people impacted by this horrific crash with the resources that they need. We have more information on all of that and how to find those resources, Jana, on KARE11.com.
Kent, when you talked to the folks with MAD about that technology coming into cars, how far away did you sense from that being a reality for all people?
Well, this is a difficult question to answer, Jana, because as with any act of Congress, you have what's in that legislation, which essentially laid out like a 3-year window to get the rules figured out and then another few years for car manufacturers. But as you know, with anything in Washington, there's still a whole lot of wrangling that has to happen before this takes effect.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of big talks about, again, security concerns, all those other things that have to be figured out as well.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Thanks so much, Kent. We appreciate it.